Dear students, today I'm going to talk about the German minority living within the borders of Hungary and its history. Originally, many people from regions like Bavaria and Swabia emigrated from the Holy Roman Empire to Hungary, that is, to medieval Hungary and also during the modern age. Today, Hungarians refer to these Germans as Swabians. However, not all of them were Swabians. Some of them were Bavarians also, or came from a completely different duchy. What must be understood is that the Holy Roman Empire, where these emigrants originally came from, was a polity and not a unified state. And that means that it was ruled by a monarch. However, the duchies themselves still had a little bit more autonomy than just an administrative region. So why did the Germans go to Hungary during the Middle Ages and the early modern age? Well, there were several different motivations. First of all, Hungary had very fertile lands. Many knights came from Hungary, basically advertising the country, saying that it had low taxes or no taxes at all, which was wonderful for southern Germans who had to face very heavy taxation during the early modern age because they had no maritime trade with which they could sustain their southern German economy of those duchies. And those lands were safe and fertile, politically relatively stable, unless, of course, the Tatars or the Ottomans happened to invade, which did happen sometimes, unfortunately, in the course of Hungarian history. And Germans also tended to suffer under this a lot. Another reason was, of course, the occurrence of French invasions in the southern German duchies. And this was, of course, terrible because if the French confiscated any property in the south of Germany, then peasants and farmers would feel that they were treated unjustly by the invaders and would want to go elsewhere. Hungary seemed safe, fertile, and had, well, no taxes. Germany seemed to be perhaps a disappointment in this situation, so they left their own home country. There were many waves of immigration to Hungary. There are 3 of them. So the first one occurred during the High Middle Ages in the 13th century under the rule of Béla III especially and Béla IV. They were very important Hungarian kings that fortified the country, made it safe from enemies like the Tatars, and they protected its borders. So politically speaking, the Germans entered an environment which had fertile lands, and in the Middle Ages they could basically have their own little settlements and begin to live there with their own cultural heritage unchanged by Hungarian influence, at least for now. Then there came the second wave of immigration, which was already in the modern age, during the rule of Leopold I, that's his English name, who ruled in Holy Roman Empire. Also, he reigned as King of Hungary. The third wave of immigration finally came under Maria Theresia, which is the Hungarian name of a monarch, an Austrian empress. So you'll notice that the Austrians are very important here because they, of course, also supported the idea of German immigration to Hungary. They basically wanted to sedate the Hungarian blood or the Hungarian way of life with the German way of life, make it a little bit more relaxed and perhaps less uncivilized as the Austrians saw it. However, German culture has faded a little bit from the descendants of those German immigrants. Most of them have been assimilated, they have become Hungarians. And there are several reasons for this. During the 1930s, many southern Germans joined the Nazis, and they thought that they would get a closer connection to Germany that way, which of course they did politically, but they also partook in horrific crimes against humanity. After the war, or rather towards the end of the war, when the Russian invasion occurred in 1944, which was 1 year before the end of World War II, the southern Germans were sent to labor camps, forced labor camps, the so-called gulags, for maleńki robot, a little work. Many Germans perished in those camps. And during Hungarian socialism, many German, that is, descendants of German immigrants, especially those who had supported their own culture rather than Hungarian culture, were suspected of treason against the government, or of attempting treason against the government, or of plotting treason against the government eventually. And so many Germans were isolated, discriminated against, and had to forcibly assimilate to the Hungarian way of life. One thing that one should not forget is that some Germans also resisted the idea of Nazism during the 1930s and the early 1940s, and they resisted the idea of joining Hitler and supported the Kingdom of Hungary, and the idea of Hungary being free from German, that is, politically from Hitler's influence. Today, about 1.5% of Hungary's population is German, or identifies as German, or is descended from German immigrants, which is, of course, a far, far lower percentage of the population than what it was during the early modern age, when many, many German immigrants arrived due to heavy taxes in Germany and due to the fact that they could get access to free lands in Hungary without paying any taxes for quite a while. So Germans have remained here. Some have revived their culture, especially after 1989, when, of course, Hungary became a republic with a democratic constitution later on also, and with a democratic in a democratic way. And due to the rise of democracy, and because people intended to strengthen the rights of minorities, many Germans started to celebrate their culture in Hungary once more. And this is the way it is today. Most descendants of German immigrants are assimilated Hungarians, but some of them still manage to revive their culture, their dance and their music, their art, their calligraphy, and the German typography of Gothic letters. So many German traditions have been revived, and the Germans continue to be a minority that is loyal now to democracy and to the Hungarian state.